Hi everyone, my name is Herkeph and I am highly incompetent, and due to that incompetence, I managed to get myself killed in my previous BareBones hardcore world, bringing that first season of this series to an end. But now, you might be wondering what this is all about and why I've decided to name the series BareBones. And if you said no, it sucks to be you, as I will explain it whether you like it or not. In this world, I have set up a list of different restrictions in hopes of slowing me down, so that I don't try to skip the entirety of the early game, which is usually the way I play. My usual strategy is to try to get to the Ender Dragon as quickly as possible to grab a pair of wings, and from there I'd find a place to settle down and get to work building auto farms in preparation of building my mega base. Long story short, I am a sweaty nerd. However, this is something I won't do in this world, as I would most probably not even be able to, and that is due to the fact that the restrictions I've imposed on myself are specifically designed to prevent that. Some of those restrictions being that wearing any type of armor is forbidden. I'm not allowed to go to the end until day 150. Natural health regeneration is switched off. My maximum health is halved. No using off, no harming passive, no enchantment, mega build. Long story short, there's quite a lot, so if you want to see a list of all of the restrictions, you can find them in the description down below. However, there has been a change in said restrictions from our last season, as one of the rules was making things really annoying, and a tiny bit too much, even for me and my masochistic ways. And this rule was that I wasn't allowed to enter the Nether until day 100, so I have removed that rule and compensated by only being allowed to use stone tools instead of iron. But I think that is enough demented rambling on my part for now, so here's what I got up to. I started off by creating our world in just as exciting of a manner as usual, to then do the Minecraft equivalent of busting my own kneecaps, and after a quick relog, the adventure was set afoot. So I swiftly made my way through the beginning steps of all Minecraft worlds, of getting some wood to make a wooden pickaxe, to then grab some stone to make stone tools, and rather luckily for us, we had apparently spawned right next to a village, which was very epic. After all, starvation is something that is best when shared, and when I say shared, I of course mean passed on to others. So I did just that and grabbed all of the hay bales I could get my hands on. Once my pockets had successfully been filled with someone else's belongings, I ran off to grab some iron, as we're not allowed to kill iron golems, as they count as a semi-passive mob. This didn't take very long, as we rather luckily found a cave with a bit of iron. I then went back to the village to smelt all the iron to craft myself a shield and a bucket, meaning that we were ready to go find a lava pool to construct a nether portal, and by some absolute miracle, we found one right next to the village. This was absolutely insane, as this was a completely random seed, but thinking about it, it kind of makes sense, as this game has a tendency of screwing me over completely, so being lucky is something that was bound to happen sooner or later. So I constructed our nether portal and went through. I then spent 1 minute and 4 seconds in the nether and found a nether fortress. I don't think I've ever been this lucky in a long-term world, so this all smelled a bit fishy, as I was well and truly expecting some kind of tomfoolery of the fatal variety to take place in the near future. However, even though we had successfully located a nether fortress, I still had one thing to do before entering it. As stated several times before, one of my major weaknesses is my level of intelligence, and this rather lacking level of intelligence has caused quite a few situations where I get absolutely obliterated for absolutely no reason. So in hopes of negating that, I thought it might be a good idea to deal with the blazes using potions of fire resistance, which has a chance to drop when bartering with piglins. Therefore, I got on to collecting gold to then struggle for dear life to trap a financial exploitation victim of the humanoid pig variety. And as I was collecting more gold to barter with, the game decided to spawn a ghast right next to me. This is usually completely fine, as they tend to be boosted. However, this one completely ignored the fireball I hit back at it. But luckily, it saw my face and recognized that I have enough problems in my life and flew off. And after having spent enough time for a case of grave robbing to turn into archaeology, going back and forth between the piglins and my gold gathering, we had finally gotten a decent amount of potions. So I made my way into the nether fortress and started farming blazes. But now some of you might be wondering why I've decided to grab a bunch of blaze rods, as I'm not allowed to go to the end until we hit day 150. And the reason for this is because I need them to make potions, specifically potions of invisibility, as that would make my life significantly easier, as I won't get harassed by hostile mobs all the time. We can also make potions of regeneration and healing, which would be really helpful when we inevitably screw ourselves over. Once I had finished farming the blazes, I broke the spawner so that it wouldn't spawn anymore as I was collecting the rods, as a melee attack from a blaze would either one-shot me or get me really low. I only managed to get 8 blaze rods, which was rather problematic, but thankfully, I ran into a couple more in the fortress, which yielded another 2, meaning that we probably had enough for potions for a good while, and probably enough to get to the end as well. But we didn't just need blaze rods to make potions. We also had to grab some nether wart, so I ran into the treasure area of the fortress and grabbed some. I then got out of the nether as quickly as possible, as that was where I died in our last world, and I preferred to not have that happen yet again. But with that out of the way, it was about time to start exploring to find a place to set up shop. I was mainly looking for an area that was completely open, so that it would be easy to spot any potential delinquents wielding instruments of clappings. And whilst I was exploring, I made sure to stop and raid all of the villages I came across. I actually already had a decent amount of food, so it was mainly because starvation is rather fun to inflict upon random people. But in this process, I managed to get my hands on a saddle, which meant that I could tame and ride gimps. So I grabbed myself a nearby gimp horse and continued our epic adventure. After having explored a bit further, I arrived at an ocean with a mushroom island, which was something that I had completely forgotten was a thing. But this was absolutely perfect, as this meant that there wouldn't be any hostile mobs spawning there, making it an ideal spot to build my house. So I shoved my horse gimp in a horse gimp hole and swam my way over. Mushroom islands are actually really nice, as they are the only biome where you can build and use lighting however you like. However, there is a glaring issue with them, which is that they look about as appealing as an average infected hemorrhoid. This is mainly because it's covered in giant mushrooms, so the first thing I did was to chop them all down. Then came the time where I had to gather materials to build my house. At this point, I had absolutely no idea what to build, as I went into this world without a plan, thinking that it'd all work itself out. This wasn't the case, so I started setting up some tree farms, as I thought that I would possibly use it for my block palette. I also went mining for deep slate, as I knew I wanted to use it. I remember that a comment on one of the episodes from the previous season reminded me that suspicious stew was a thing, and that there's a flower that can be used to make stew with regeneration, which I decided to do. I can't find the comment, but I'm pretty sure I saw that at some point. This was rather helpful, as this meant that I wouldn't have to use a potion to heal up when out of danger. I also got started brewing our potions. At this point, I still had absolutely no idea what I was going to build, so I decided to go into a creative world to come up with something. And after having spent longer than it probably should have for functioning adults, I finally had a design and an established block palette. So I got to collecting the materials that I actually needed, which was mangrove wood, sandstone, and warped wood. This is probably one of the wildest block palettes that I've ever used. I'm not going to tell you what kind of house I'm building, but I'm pretty sure you'll be able to tell a tiny bit into the upcoming time-lapse. That is about all the time we have for this episode. So there we have it, a fresh new start brought to you by my utter incompetence. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like and subscribe if you did, and I'll see you in the next one.